Welcome for the astrology capsule of February 2018. So let's have a look right away at February. February will be very special because it starts under the influence of an eclipse happening on January 31st. So the eclipse is not happening in February but just the day before, and that really does set the tone for the first half of February at least. And then after, there will be, of course, Saint Valentine's Day on the 14th. And by chance, just like that, it's happening. On February 15th, there is the partial solar eclipse that is happening. And other aspects will be starting, and mainly it will be a dance between Mars and Venus. Lots of different aspects involving Mars and Venus. So again, Mars and Venus, masculine, feminine. Mars will represent our desire to acquire, to get, to really desire things, to do everything needed in accordance to get those things, to get what we want, what we like, what we love. And then Venus will represent this ability of this attractive strength that usually women use more than men to really charm and get the others, or get what we want, to try to want us, basically, to desire us. So it's this polarity between Mars and Venus. We know Mars is very often the symbol for men and Venus the symbol for women. Basically, it's those two energies that are always in polarity, where Mars is going at it and Venus is charming, attracting. So there's always this dance, and second half of February will be really about that. So that's really interesting, and it's just happening by chance that St. Valentine's Day is right in the middle of it, and there's a big connection. So let's go back now at the eclipse happening on January 31st that is setting the tone for the first half of February. So when anytime there's an eclipse, if it's a lunar eclipse, the sun and the moon will be in opposition, so facing each other, so really far away. And if it's a solar eclipse, moon and sun will be together. Because the reason is very simple. The earth is right in between, because the earth is giving shade on the moon when it's a lunar eclipse. So there's the sun on one side, earth in the middle, and the moon on the other side. So the sun shines, it hits the earth is right in front of the moon, and the moon is hidden. And when it's a solar eclipse, it's the opposite. The sun shines, it shines on the moon, and the moon is hiding the earth. So that's why they're both on the same side and exact same spot of the zodiac. So that is very simple, just to explain a bit how that works. So the first one on January 31st is a total lunar eclipse. So that's why they are facing each other, sun and moon. So the sun is in Aquarius and the moon is in Leo. So that's very interesting, because we said last time for the January capsule and New Year capsule that during 2018, what will be really interesting is regarding the moon, that a lot of energies, especially with Saturn entering Capricorn, will be working on getting into greater structure, even touching like government functions, big organizations, touching structures that really does impact our world, our society nowadays. And that is awesome. 2018 is a great chance opportunity to do that for the people that are seeking that. So that's great. But in the meantime, the moon on the January 1st chart was quite alone on its side, and it's happening again on this January 31st. The moon is still again alone on its own half of the zodiac. There's nothing else on that side where the moon is, and on the side where the sun is, there's everything else. All the other planets are there, but the moon is kind of lonely on its side. So it's kind of making sure we hold a balance between all the collective needs and our personal needs. And the moon is responsible for our personal needs in that case. And that is very interesting to see that on January 31st, it's a total lunar eclipse where the moon is there alone on its side of the zodiac again, because the moon does move pretty fast. In a month, it does go everywhere in the zodiac. But then again, we see it alone and inside, and even there's an eclipse on it. So that means that our needs there in Leo, and Leo, it is a sign that is ruled by the sun, and the sun is not shining on the moon while it's in Leo anymore because there's that eclipse. So that moon that is representing our own needs get a little bit frustrated. There's some tension happening because it doesn't have that light. And we will feel that because our moon also represents our subconsciousness. So those subconscious needs that we have, that we don't really talk about, but we just feel them as we live, as we go. We just take care of ourselves as we live, right? So those things that we don't really talk about, and we're not even conscious of them, it really does live in our subconsciousness. Well, those needs will get some frustration because they won't get the sunlight they used to get, and they won't have the light they used to have as well. So they will come out, those things that we hide. When it's daytime, we never show those things. When there's no more light, sometimes those things that are hidden, they just come out. A little bit like monsters under the bed, right? And when you turn the switch off, they come out, right? And we're all scared of them. So it's kind of the same idea. From our subconsciousness, when there will be the eclipse, those needs that are there, ready, and it's in Leo, so they're strong, they will come out. And it's interesting because since this will be leading us to the St. Valentine's Day, and then right after that there's this big work between Mars and Venus, this big dance, we see that it's really touching the topic of polarity, and especially even the topic of a couple. How do we work as a couple? And especially the topic of how do we work as a couple, and what are our needs in our own couple when we're working towards a more collective perspective, when we work for a cause, when we work for certain ideas, this kind of challenge, how do we see that in our society? How do we live our love in a more broader perspective? So since that eclipse on the moon is happening in Leo, and that is leading us towards St. Valentine's Day, and then there's this big dynamic between Mars and Venus happening, this big dance we just talked about, well, it's obvious as though that those needs we're talking about that will come out of the dark, those kind of bit scary needs, some based on frustration, the ones that we usually don't show, well, they will be related to the couple, this polarity dynamic that we live. So within our own relationship, there might be some new tensions happening, arising, that we don't even know about now, like today, and they might just show up during this first half of February. And it might be in our own relationship, it might be with other people that we're not in a relationship with, but we just work with, or whatever else, and it might still happen because there's a polarity happening between any times we do something with someone. We don't have to be in a couple with that person. As soon as we work with that person, there's some polarity happening, and there's always one person that is a bit more Mars polarized, meaning more willful, more forcing towards an idea, trying to get something accomplished, and another person more trying to present the beauty of something, the charming aspect of something, and trying to get that will and movement toward the goal it wants to reach. So that is always happening, and the issues, those subconscious needs that we have, will be more, some of them will show up, some of them that we don't know yet of during that period of time. So one thing not to do is to panic and disrupt everything and change everything all of a sudden, because we feel that it makes us unsecure, we feel not safe, we feel we're not respecting ourselves because all of a sudden we feel something so strong. Well, we should not do that. What the best attitude to have would be to just remember those needs, remember them, look at them, identify them. It's a great time actually to get to know more our own subconsciousness, to get to know more our needs in our couple, in our relationships. it's a great opportunity to know those needs. Not necessarily the greater opportunity to clear issues facing relationships and so on, because there will probably be some frustrations around because there's not enough light. And when there's not enough light, and when it's not clear enough, very often there's fog and we don't know what we're doing, and it's not a time to take decisions. So it's a great time though to understand ourselves better, and we'll get out of this month of February knowing ourselves much more, especially towards the needs we have in relationships and in our own couple or in our future couple and so on. So we'll get way more rich knowing that, because it will allow us to do our work more fully. Because if our needs are met, more needs are met. The more needs are met within ourselves, the more we can serve. The more we have, the more we can give, right? So it's the same equation. If we can fill more of our needs and respecting more of our needs, we'll be able to do more after, to give more, to develop more, to everything else we want to do more. So it's a really important month, but let's just not get too crazy about clearing things right away because we feel them and we panic. No. Just let's remember all that and it will be awesome. So that's for the first half of February. Then the second half starts, and it starts with that partial solar eclipse that is happening in Aquarius. So both moon and sun are in Aquarius. It's a partial solar eclipse, so not as strong, but still it's an important point, and it's a shifting point happening right after St. Valentine's Day. So it's shifting the energies a bit, and there's a first important aspect happening, and this is happening with Mars and Neptune. Mars is in Sagittarius, and it's creating a square with Neptune that is in Pisces. So you have Mars, this masculine energy, and Sagittarius. And if you look at the symbols of them, Mars is like a circle with that arrow coming out. And Sagittarius, it's kind of a cross with an arrow at the end of one cross end. So they both have that arrow, and it's rare. In astrology, you don't have arrows everywhere. I think right now, I think it's pretty much the only two symbols with arrows like that for the most common symbols. So that means something. It means that Mars in Sagittarius has this masculine energy. It wants to reach that goal that Sagittarius has. You know, Sagittarius, it's a center with his bow, and it's aiming at something. We usually say it's aiming at the sun. It's aiming really high because it has a great high ideal. It's aiming for something really high, and it wants to reach it, so it's aiming for it. And Mars is there because it wants to reach that. It's the desire. It wants it so much. So it's going to be that masculine energy, especially since we're talking about couples, masculine energy that wants to get to the point, wants to reach something, even wants to organize the feminine energy in a way that he will get where he wants to. And Neptune in Pisces, total opposite. Very different. Neptune in Pisces, it's this really wide energy that shows that there's life everywhere. There's love everywhere, in every particle, everywhere in creation. There's life, and it holds everything together. That energy that holds the whole universe together, that's Pisces, and especially Neptune in Pisces. So it's representing that feminine energy that is giving space and making life possible on Earth. It's connected to the Divine Mother, that principle that is wonderful, where the quote of the Divine Mother, we used to say, is nature itself. So it's this possibility to have a physical body. Actually, mothers, they are preparing the physical body for the babies, right? So it's very obvious. And it's happening on a greater scale with the Divine Mother, let's say, which is a bit, this complementary principle of what we used to say, the Lord, or, God, and we always represent him as a man and so on. But the Divine Mother on the other side is that other polarity that is representing this a little bit like this womb of love that we're all in. And it's a greater perspective, of course, but that's what Pisces is all about. It's something really, really great and big that is really difficult for the masculine brain or energy to to grasp. So that's what is going to happen because it's a square. So there's a tension when there's a square. So Mars and Neptune, tension between them, because Mars will try to get to understand that feminine, so vast and wide energy, and will want to put it in a box to understand it. But Neptune in Pisces will never allow that to happen because it's too big, it's too wide, it's too broad. So there might be some tension arising right there. And then there's another aspect happening between Saturn and Venus. Saturn is in Capricorn, as we said, it just entering Capricorn. And Venus is in Pisces, just entered Pisces. And that it's a sextile, so it's a nice, pleasant, harmonious aspect. And it's just showing that, yes, we should listen more to that feminine part in Pisces. Because Saturn is holding the direction right now, is having a stronger impact than Jupiter right now. And it's showing us that, yes, we should look at that. So if we look at that square with Mars and Neptune, from the sextile happening right after that, we can already guess that, oh, actually, we should, calm down a bit our Mars and try to open up our Mars towards that great perspective of the more feminine side, more broad, looking at love everywhere, that it's really everywhere, it's in all particles, it's just making the whole thing work. So yeah, that sextile is really showing us that this Pisces sign right now will have a lot of energy very soon. And this will be amplified when later on Mars will get into a square again, but not with a Neptune anymore, that time with Venus itself. So that dance of Mars and Venus, that's the ultimate point of it. That's now we're at the end of February and Mars is in square with Venus. And both of them are supported by a trine with another planet. Venus in Pisces will be supported by Jupiter in Scorpio with a trine. And Mars in Sagittarius will be supported by a trine with Uranus in Aries. So you see the type of energies it gives. Uranus and Mars, very explosive, very amazing. That energy, that arrow of Mars, it really want to go there. It want to explode. It want to go there for that goal they have in Sagittarius. That strong goal, that strong idea they want to reach. So they will have a lot of energy to go there. And Jupiter in Scorpio gives so much energy and deepness to that Venus in Pisces. It's so strong. It's just a perfect square between Mars and Venus, so strong, lots of tension. So it's a bit like the exam of everything else we've seen in February since the beginning of the month of February, actually since even January 31st. So it's kind of an exam showing us what did we learn with all this polarity work we've been learning about, feeling, understanding, unveiling some of our subconscious needs towards the couple and or any polarity work we do. So that's very important. That square will be kind of the exam, and that's where we'll be really knowing, oh, am I just making a war of everything? Am I just making a war in this couple? Am I just making war with this polarity work I'm trying to do with everybody around me? Or did I understood that, oh, there's a mystery behind that? How can we make them work together even though apparently there's a tension, there's a square, so there is a tension. But behind the square, we know when we're able to harness that energy of a square, it gives us a lot of power, a lot of potential to do so much. So it's a great opportunity. That moment will be amazing. It's towards the very end of February, so we have a full month to prepare ourselves for that. And we can start right away as soon as we're aware of it. And it's going to be amazing. So it's a great work in February, really aiming the couple and polarity work, Mars and Venus, duality, but also work together because they are definitely connected. And Venus connected to Pisces, Mars and Sagittarius. So idea versus broad, vast connection. It's very interesting. And we kind of the aim of February would be to be able to marry those two energies together, to be able to use them together and harness the power that they give when they are put together. So that's very interesting. First, we can look at some of our needs that are usually hidden with that eclipse, this total lunar eclipse will show us some of our needs. As we get aware of them going towards St. Valentine's Day, we can, like mid-February, we can really work at understanding those needs and looking at them, identifying them. And then after that, we really enter the dance of Mars and Venus, and we try to see how we can use them. But let's do that as peacefully as possible, I think would be my main advice, because Venus in Pisces will be really having a lot of power, even more actually than Mars, even if it's going to be supported by Uranus, which is huge, but yet still this Venus will be really strong and leading a leading force in this square. So it's important to really give space for that Venus energy, for the feminine side. And I think after February we won't be the same anymore. We'll because we will learn so much about this polarity work. It's very exciting. I love that. Very interesting for anybody in a relationship, in a couple, or looking forward to it, or planning for that. February will be amazing, and just be a bit careful on St. Valentine's Day, really, because those energies of those subconscious needs that will be expressed can be strong. So just don't have too much expectations on having the day that is usually encouraged by in society, that this will be, yes, a successful St. Valentine's Day. Yes, that's how we see it, as being perfect. Don't have too many usual expectations. You can have expectations, but don't plan on the usual ones. There will be something amazing happening, but not necessarily what you think is amazing now. But through February, we'll discover what is really amazing. Well, at least another layer of it. So that will be really interesting. Good luck, everyone. Happy February month, and have a very good day. And see you for the next astrology capsules, for Mars astrology capsules next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.